In this lesson, we're going to be moving our anchor points and creating parent chains. Okay, so let's jump out of our graph editor view and go inside of our dog and leash composition just by double clicking. And let's take a look at what we have here with our current setup and layers. So we've got one piece for the head of the dog. We've got another piece for the neck. We've got one for the body, one for the tail, and then we have these three pieces for the leash. Now, the reason why they're set up this way right now, where the leash is in front of the head instead of them all being together, is so that when the head is turned on, you can see this side of the leash going into his mouth. But if we want to, we can move it down to the bottom of the stacking order until we're ready to deal with that part of our animal. So let's just go ahead and turn off all the pieces of the leash and only have the body parts of the dog on for now. So what I want to do is take a look at where these pieces line up on top of each other. So I'm going to select all four of those layers and hit the T key to bring up the opacity property. And we'll turn it down a little bit just so we can see the darker areas are the areas that the dog is overlapping its head with its neck with its body, and its body with its tail. So if this dog was going to actually be walking, the body would be the driver, then the head would follow along, or the neck would follow along with the body, and the head with the neck. So if we look at this inversely, where if the head is going to maybe bend down to pick something up, the neck needs to follow along with that head as it drives down. So we need to think a little bit about how we want those to be connected to each other and from which point we want them to connect. So seems pretty clear. These dark areas are a great place to put those anchor points for areas that we'll rotate from. So if I select the head, you can see that right now the anchor point is defaulting to the very middle of the layer. So let's grab our pan behind anchor point tool and pull this over to the overlap, just right in the middle. And then we'll do the same thing for the neck. We'll select the neck layer and just pull that to the middle. The body, because we're not really going to be moving that, we don't have to worry about changing the anchor point position. You could if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. And then we can also do an anchor point change for the tail. So we'll select the tail and move the anchor point to where it attaches right there at the top. Okay, so now let's think about that parenting chain and how the different parts of the body are going to be affected based on what part of the body is moving. So if I select the head, and let's say I want the head to rotate down, I want the neck to follow along with it. So I would actually probably want to rotate the neck first to get the head into place. So that means that the head needs to be parented to the neck. So what I can do is just come up here to the head, grab my parenting pick whip, and parent it to the neck. Same thing for the neck and the body. I'll grab the neck and pull it down to the body. Now, because we know we're not going to move the body, I'm not worried about parenting the tail to the body, but if you were going to have the dog running along or walking along, you would want to make that parent chain also. So now let's see what happens if I select both the head and the neck and I hit the R key to bring up the rotation property. If I want to rotate this, let's say on the Z rotation, you can see how now the head is both rotating as well as the neck. Now we get a little bit of a strange overlap, but we can fix that once we decide to get those set up and get it looking like the dog is reaching down for the leash. So let's actually come back in the next lesson and start that animation process. Now that we have the parent chain figured out and we have the anchor points in the right place, let's figure out how we need to move the neck and the head to make it look like the dog is bending down to pick that leash up off the ground.